famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt. Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop is up and coming.
Pit Stop. The Zoey Ashe Trilogy episode. With Topper and Nancy.
The dog hasn't barked all day. I'm gonna go punch the dog in the throat.
Take your time.
I'm closing the door.
Man, I hope that stays in the recording. Just as soon as you walk back and sit down, the dog starts barking again.
Yes, I know. So how are you feeling? 2 kids out of the house at once? That's like traumatic.
I think I'm handling it okay. I've been looking forward to this for a few months, ever since, we lined up a place for them and they were making plans to move out. I worry my wife is holding on by her fingertips in both happy and also losing her shit. So
That's, wow. First, good on you for helping them find a place. My parents were like, you're never moving out.
as in that they didn't think you could, or they wanted you to live at home forever?
A lot of they wanted me to live at home forever because I had a driver's license and they were, at the time, both infirm. So it was really scary for them to have me move out. And I was supposed to either move out if I got married or join a convent. So I moved in with my boyfriend. Lots of controversy.
That's what my wife did.
Yeah.
And it was me.
Good for you. But they were like, they would never find an apartment for us. Like, that is a good lead-in for our topic because it's almost science fiction. You helping them find an apartment. That is really supportive. Good for you guys. And to have all the space and new furniture that's going to be clean. Look at you in your functioning society over there. I haven't checked the news. I don't know if you have a State Department anymore. And you have an economy where kids can move out on their own.
Oh, yes. Since our last recording, you guys swapped out presidents or something, huh?
That democracy thing was a fad, so we're dismantling it now.
On my first day back, I'm going to shit in the Oval Office, and then we're going to take your children and send them immediately to China.
American experiment. I mean, experiments don't have, certain outcomes. You do the experiment, you see what happens, you take notes.
My fellow Americans, I'm enormously high.
Like somebody smarter than me has said online, I knew the end of democracy would happen someday. I didn't know it would happen by these losers.
I didn't expect it to be. I have seen that meme and tweet and whatever many times.
Oh, I saw The Rock with Ed Harris.
Ah, excellent.
The last time I saw this movie, and my kids loved it. They thought it was great. Ridiculous. The last time I saw this movie, Ed Harris was the old man. Like, as old as Sean Connery in my 1996 brain, because I was quite young. That's the year I graduated high school, so 17, 18. Watching it now, Ed Harris in the movie is my age. He's 46, I'm 46. Whoa, it's like time travel. And he is gorgeous. I was like, he was never an old man. He is a snack. Look at those lines.
He is badass in that movie too, yeah.
His jaw is amazing.
He is the old general, but he's still, Hollywood old.
Yeah, they really made him out to be like this wizened old guy, but you look at him and you go, oh my God, he's doing sit-ups in between takes. He looked more fit than Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, I feel, looked like a lineless baby.
Doesn't have to look fit for his movies. Like, Nicolas Cage just brings the natural energy. He doesn't have to get jacked or anything. He just his body naturally makes meth, and that's what he brings.
And I remember falling.
I guess he was jacked in Con Air, though. Actually, wow.
Oh yes, he was. I remember falling in love with him as a little girl because he was in Valley Girl.
Oh my God,
that was a very long time ago in the 80s.
In my mind, that's young toddler Nicolas Cage. He looks so different than adult Nicolas Cage.
I'm confused to his aging process because in this movie, The Rock, it's 30 years later and he's still playing 27. Did he age? Did he just take a few years off from aging? I know it was only 10 years, but he's timeless. Except for now. Now he looks like a nigger suit. Oh, and I was looking at Egyptian hieroglyphs. You know the headdresses and stuff that they have, the animal faces? Reminded me of you. They didn't like cats. They couldn't get rid of them. Those weren't headdresses. That was sleepwear.
To our listeners, there's a cat currently trying to live in my beard again.
Oh, yes, out of context. The cat is attached like a skin graft.
Hello.
That cat is looking so smug right now. She's nose up, like, I deserve this. Don't you dare stop petting me.
I'm looking at it in the camera and her head popping up from the bottom of the frame.
I acknowledge this.
Right.
I still participate. Let's go into the topic.
Anyways, yes. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, another pit stop in between. What do we just do? Deep Six? Cyclops. In between Cyclops and Treasure. I've already forgotten what our last book was.
Yes. Cyclops, where he promises the dame, I'll never leave. And Treasure, where he leaves her to pursue treasure. I know, spoiler, sorry.
I haven't gotten there yet.
It's the first line.
Okay, that's fine then. I am doing a pit stop this time on one of my favorite book series, which is right now a trilogy. I believe he is writing the fourth one right now. And they are the Zoey Ashe books. Now, I know you know who Jason Pargin is.
Yes, he's a delightful person who loves air conditioning and has made his life accordingly. He set out a plan to always live where he can be near air conditioning and indoors. And I really identify with that.
Now, the first thing you'll notice is that Reacher is about a man named Reacher who is extremely large. He travels around the country helping those in need and solving his problems using his largeness.
For our listeners who might not know, he used to be the editor-in-chief at Cracked. He released a lot of short stories in the very early days of the internet. Like, he had stories going viral in the 90s before viral was a thing, before social media was a thing, under the pen name David Wong.
Yes, he's very clever.
At the time was less problematic.
Yes. I wonder why he chose that pen name.
Oh, I can tell you.
Well, go ahead.
The main character in his original series, the John Dies at the End books, was named David Wong. And the character picked that as a pseudonym to avoid their enemies, because David is the most common first name in the world and Wong is the most common last name in the world. So he hoped that calling himself David Wong would be the most common name in the world. And the character does also point out, yes, a white person named Wong in Midwestern America might actually draw more attention. So it was already an in-joke that was a bad idea, but he stuck with it. And that was the author's pen name for years until he's just like, this is just too much of a headache.
Yeah, he'd have a separate banking account. It was identity theft. He was like, at some point, the crime ring has to end.
So he got famous with the John Dies at the End books. The first one, which got turned into a movie almost immediately by the guy who did the Phantasm films. Somebody gave him this book, and he loved the book so much. He called up, well, not called up, in the old days, he emailed Jason Pargin and was like, I want to buy the rights to John Dies at the End. I want to make this movie. And Jason Pargin deleted it because he thought somebody was fucking with him. And it took 3 more emails and a phone call before this guy actually got through.
That's great.
Guy's name, Don Coscarelli.
And Jason Pargin is also, you might have heard him if you're a fan of podcasts. He was on the Cracked podcast frequently. He is a frequent guest star or guest co-host on Secretly Incredibly Fascinating.
He's on Hypecast with the Gamefully Unemployed guys. He is the guest on the Behind the Bastards for several episodes involving the American government.
Yes, I believe he was once Robert Evans' boss, briefly.
Yes,
Cracked.
he was. They bring that up a lot.
And he is on the Daily Zeitgeist. Sometimes he's a little bit snooty on the Daily Zeitgeist. That's where he gets to be politically snooty. Like, I know more than you. But generally, he has a very nice personality.
Yes. His first non-John Dies at the End book was a sort of science fiction, cyberpunky, near-future book called Futuristic Violence in Fancy Suits. And that was an awesome title, and I had to pick it up. And this is the first Zoey Ashe book. And it instantly became one of my favorite books of all time.
Ooh, tell me why.
I'm about to. So it has like the absolutely manic pacing and just batshit, seemingly nonsensical things as the John Dies books. Although it's in a more structured story. The John Dye's books read like a fever dream. These books actually read like proper sci-fi cyberpunk. And they focus around Zoey Ashe, the main character, a 23-year-old esthetician who lives in a trailer park who inherits $100 billion crime empire.
And an esthetician is somebody who does like eyebrow waxing and like eyebrow. They put the lashes on, the fake lashes, and some makeup stuff, right? Hair removal.
I think she was a hairdresser. When the book starts, she's also a barista. So
that she's got many talents, and now she's a crime boss.
So there's a lot of scenes where she's meeting with like hired killers and assassins and cyborgs and crime bosses, and she's making them fancy coffees because that's all she knows how to do at that particular time.
She's like, here, buddy, you got a unibrow. Just come for 1 second.
And here's my skill.
I'm thinking, oh, she's got an assortment of skills. She has to be personable, good with tweezers. That might come up.
I figure I'll spend most of this talking about the first book because that sets up the world and the insanity and the stuff that happens, and then I can sort of skim through the next 2 books. And I don't want to ruin the endings for anybody because I absolutely urge everybody out there to go pick up these books and read them. They're really good, even if I have some mild critiques of the third one, but we'll get to that. So, futuristic violence and fancy suits starts off in a trailer park with Zoey Ashe, a young woman who lives with her mom, and she's trying to get her cat, Stench Machine, off the roof of the trailer because the cat gets stuck up there all the time. Stench Machine is also an excellent character who is a major plot point in book 2 and makes me think of this cat right here.
That does make me think of every cat I've ever met and a great band name.
And by the third paragraph, she is being stalked by a live streaming serial killer with a bionic jaw.
Well, that's just a Tuesday, right? She's a pretty girl in a trailer park. Sure, that'll happen.
Which brings me to the first really important sci-fi premise for all these books is social media. So in the near future, everybody streams everything. Everybody has pinhole cameras on their clothes, their hats, every device, and every video is streaming live on the internet 24/7. And the main social network is called Blink. And everybody is watching Blink all the time.
And what year was this made, this book?
The first one was, I think, 6 years ago.
Okay. So prescient, but...
It was made in the heyday of Facebook and Twitter and all that. But the Blink is that taken to an absolute extreme. Everything's online.
And that sounds so much cooler than X. Eat your heart out, Elon Musk. Blink is so much better.
Everything's online. Everything is searchable. Everybody is watching several streams at once to keep up on what's going on. And if everybody's eyes all suddenly start watching the same thing, even for a second, it boosts it in the algorithm and pushes it on more people. So very quickly, the number of people watching this assassin stalk this lady in a trailer park goes from a couple hundred to a couple thousand to, 100,000 people.
So it's going viral.
Oh, yeah, it's quite viral. And it's like,
when the Olympics were in Munich and Israeli team was held hostage, this ABC News was there, the sports team, and they were doing coverage of the agents trying to free the hostages. But they didn't realize that the hostage takers had TV too.
And we're watching it on TV, yep.
And they're like, can they see what? Oh. So I imagine if you're doing criming, wouldn't you obscure your pinhole lenses and so forth? Is there a reason?
If you're a serial killer in the near future with a cybernetic jaw, you need fans because you need funding, of course. And like he's getting money while this is happening because he's going up in popularity.
Oh, so does he have like Tide patches?
As we'll find out shortly, the cops are less of an issue in this world.
Do you know that is prescient? Less and less they are.
So long story short, Zoey survives the murder attempt and actually kills the guy by driving him and her car into a frozen pond minutes before a limousine shows up to pick her up. And the reason why a limousine is picking her up in a trailer park is because Arthur Livingston, the world's richest, insane wacko.
Mr. Livingston, yes. A great last name.
I was going to say, I can't think of any real-life billionaires anymore who sort of exemplify who this guy would have been. This is like who a lot of billionaires think they are. In that Arthur Livingston is like the fun-loving, globe-trotting, absolutely involved with crime, but still cool billionaire.
Kind of makes me think of the grandpa from Jurassic Park, the guy in the white suit. Welcome to Jurassic Park. He did some shit. He trafficked people, no doubt.
Him plus Hugh Hefner.
Oh, so he's got some game. Okay.
Imagine if the old guy from Jurassic Park also had 6 stripper girlfriends.
Sean Connery.
All Zoe knew about her dad is that when her mom was a stripper, her dad, Arthur Livingston, who was some rich flake, slept with her mom, had her, and he shows up every couple of years with like a birthday present and attempts having like a relationship. And she's like, no, fuck off. I don't know who you are. She had no idea that he was worth $100 billion. She just thought he was an asshole.
Well, he's only trying to communicate once a year. That's really not the stable environment a child needs.
He showed up one year when she was 15 and gave her like a football. And she was like, I've never played football.
I think to find out as an adult he's the world's richest person and you've lived in a trailer park, there's going to be some hang-ups, some talking points that you're going to have to work out.
That's more because Zoe's mom knew he was rich and also didn't want his goddamn money. It's like, we're fine here. We don't need your money. There's lots of arguments I'm obviously glossing over, but yes, they go into that as well.
Brief stripper tangent. I often, when I hear a sad song, in order for it to not affect me, I think, what if a stripper had to dance to it? This way I don't get like bummed out by sad music. Old Danny Boy cracks me up because of that now. I can't go to an Irish funeral. But Anya, I was in this store with Anya playing, and I'm like, oh my God.
It's amazing.
A happy thought exercise for anybody out there.
I can see that for burlesque. Maybe not a strip club.
It's just a thought experiment. Or if you want to bring your own thumb drive to the dance club, that's on you. Tip your waiters.
I'd want to be like, could you dance to this? And she's like, that'll be
put this on for the ladies.
That'll be $100 and get out.
It's just whale noises. What do we do? Go out. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. After.
No problem. So the reason that the assassin was trying to kill her, so nobody in a trailer park, is because Arthur Livingston just died and very publicly left everything to his daughter, Zoey Ashe. And before she found out about this, the call for the assassins went out.
I would imagine so. Like everyday non-sci-fi rich people have, whatchamacallit, those insurance policies where they, if they get killed or abducted, there's ransom teams and special high-tech forces in place.
And because they currently can't afford to have power and phone, their phone was disconnected. So Arthur's team couldn't call her and tell her to get out of the house or anything.
Oh,
and it took...
Does she have a small child? Because that's what Elon Musk is using right now for security.
No, she has stench machine. And it took that long for the limo to get there. So it's a good thing that she managed to actually, fend off the assassin all by herself until the limo could show up. And it's a self-driving limo, and it's taking her to the magical, wonderful city where all these books take place, which is called Tabula Rasa. And this is how Arthur Livingston got famous. So basically, a bunch of billionaires wanted to try the Las Vegas experiment again, only do it right this time. So they pooled their resources and bought a chunk of Nevada from the United States government. So this isn't the United States anymore. It's its own country. It is an absolute libertarian utopia in that there are no laws, there's no government.
There's no water either. Nevada gets 0% rain a year.
There's lots of water. They are billionaires. So, they pipe in water, and it's just the land of...
The cat is taking over the podcast.
It's the land of skyscrapers that blast holographic ads on the outside 24/7. It's the land of drones that bring you food. It is the land where everything is legal. It's parties, it's prostitution. It's sort of where all the crime goes. Although if crime is no longer illegal, the crime is a lot less dangerous. And the criminals are free to, make money on the free market the old-fashioned way. So it is Las Vegas times 100, and that's where Arthur Livingston, made his money, made his fortune.
Oh, Arthur Fortune.
It does sound like a fun place to spend a weekend and lose a kidney.
It is very fun. We find out Arthur Livingston is sort of the best of a bad lot in that, yes, he is in charge of most of the town's prostitution. They are also unionized and have full dental, medical, and retirement plans. So He is an unscrupulous, but ultimately attempting to be well-meaning capitalist crime boss billionaire.
I also think that's partially based on the guy who owned the bunny ranch, because his strippers were unionized and had great health insurance.
Yeah, probably.
His heart exploded for cocaine reasons, but I think his last name was Hoff, H-O-F.
Oh, that does sound familiar.
He was running for Las Vegas mayor, and he nearly won, but there is a law that you can't win if you're dead.
There's ways around that.
If anybody would have found it, it would have been that guy. So I love Tabula Rasa.
Yeah, Zoey eventually gets there after meeting. Well, Zoey does not stay in the limousine. Zoey is not good at doing what she's told. She orders the self-driving limo to stop. She gets out, and she finds her own way there by train, knowing full well, and with her current, not really employers, but flunkies, we'll get to them in a second, telling her that, like, assassins are out to get her. She's like, no, I'll get there on my own. That one was a fluke. It's fine. And she's once again almost killed on the train rolling into Tabula Rasa by a very large man who is naked except for welding goggles and a pair of shorts made out of doll heads, who has lightning powers.
Oh, that's not terrifying at all.
No, he's great. That visual really sticks in your head.
Is he just sweaty so the doll's heads stick? Or does he have them... never mind.
In the age of social media, you have to have a gimmick, you have to be iconic, you have to have a look that's instantly recognizable. And I don't remember what this guy was called, but I remember exactly what he looks like. And that's marketing.
The sinking dread with hearing this rationale, because it's a little on the nose for how the future might be, is just the pit of despair is opening up 4 yards that way. I'll jump in when we're done.
Zoey meets up with the Suits, and they're known all through Tabula Rasa as the Suits. And these are sort of
fancy
Arthur
suits.
Livingston's, yes, very fancy suits. That's the first guy. These are Arthur Livingston's team, I guess. So there's Will Blackwater, who is never, ever seen without an immaculate, impossibly nice suit. And he's the leader of the Suits, capital S Suits, and Arthur's surrogate son, as we get more into their backstory. He is a former mysterious government agent, Wetworks type,
Okay.
completely off the books, and has all the skills you don't want a person to have, but he has them.
I'm sure everyone knows. But Wetworks means different things to different people. And in this case, it means like a hitman, which doesn't exist. If you find one online, it's a cop. But, killing people is called wet work because it's bloody and it's messy. In other genres, it's different things. I don't know.
He is so feared on sight that once he was mugged by somebody who was new in town, didn't know who he was, and found out later. And he turned himself into the cops and begs for his family to be spared.
Oh, okay. So a subtle guy.
Yes. But Will actually is like a lot nicer than that. Like, he cultivates this image because he finds it saves a lot of time and trouble if everyone's just terrified of him all the time. He actually is also
topical because of Dread Pirate Roberts.
He's very much a Dread Pirate Roberts because everyone thinks that he is some Wetworks hitman, unscrupulous murderer, and he's really just like a business guy trying to do his best. But he knows how marketing and psychology works.
Arguably, you could kill many more people in a boardroom, so good for him.
There is Bud, the most man from Texas that a person can possibly be.
Now, is he more a man from Texas than that guy who was in Dracula, the version we would have seen in high school with Surfer Dude? What's his name? He was in The Matrix. Keanu Reeves. And
oh, God.
Keanu Reeves wasn't the Texan, but there was the most Texas man in that movie.
With this one, it's just imagine a very large, very friendly, very red-faced man with a giant cowboy hat.
And a lasso? Does he have a lasso?
No lasso, just a hat. And he is the Suits face man. So he has contacts everywhere. He knows everybody, but he's friends with all of them. So he remembers their kids' birthdays. He is the social networking person on the team.
I already hate him. I hate people like that. That's so much effort.
There's a point in one of the books where essentially a mercenary army has them all at gunpoint, and he looks at one of them and waves and says, like, "Hey, Steve," and the guy who's holding him at gunpoint waves back. So like he knows everybody. He's a lot of fun. There's Andre, who is the guy who can get you anything. If he doesn't know how to get something, it doesn't exist. There's one point where they need to get a nano factory, and there's only like a dozen of these in the entire world, and it's in the living room the next day. Although he says it costs more than $1 billion to get it. And he's going to have some itemized bills when this is all done.
Well, there's to any product you purchase, there's time, quality, and availability make up the stool of the purchase. So if you have 2 legs of that stool, all right.
They have all the money and they need it now. And there is Michelle Echo Ling, who is like the sexy Asian hacker of the group.
I'm just going to say Michelle Yeoh because she's my...
And this one is kind of subverted because she explains that she just taught herself some basic software skills on the job. She was just like one of Arthur Livingston's higher up office clerks and somehow found herself at the top of the company. And everybody thinks that she has like exotic Asian assassin skills. And she's like, I do not know martial arts.
Wonderful.
I went to business school. So she also has this mystical aura around her and she like has absolutely no time for that shit. But she still uses it to her advantage. She's a lot of fun.
I like her. Did your cat just burp? I swear that cat made a noise when it leapt off of you, like, "Arr!"
Well, that was me making the noise as she dug her claws into my diaphragm.
Oh, okay.
In the first book, there's 2 other characters. There's Armando, Zoe's bodyguard, who just like shows up one day and refuses to leave until he gets hired as her bodyguard. And there is Molek, the supervillain, which brings us to the other sort of high-tech conceit of the first book and really all 3 books. So I have a rhetorical question for you. Given the tech that we have now in the world, what is the one thing keeping us from having like Iron Man suits or laser rifles or anything that you see in the movies?
Well, it's a rhetorical question, so technically with that intro, I don't have to answer. But I would say mineral shortages.
One, you're not wrong. But in this book, it posits that it's power. It's being able to get power from where it's generated to where you need it. Like the Iron Man suit would either need a nuclear reactor the size of an outhouse attached to it, or it would have to be on like a 3-inch cable running to a nuclear reactor.
So you couldn't build that in a cave with, a handmade lathe.
You could kind of, because in the movies, the conceit of the arc reactor is it's miniaturized to an insane degree. And in this book, there is something called Raiden technology, which is something that Arthur Livingston was involved in. And it is essentially a battery with a technically infinite capacity.
Well, that would be a breakthrough.
So since it's technically infinite, it also doesn't have to be very big. So there's batteries the size of pennies that have like 100 million gigawatts of power pumped into them.
So toys would be fantastic.
Toys would be fantastic, but that's also why there are people wandering around with lightning powers.
Well, the downstream effects, but the toys first would be fantastic.
Because now you can have one person with all the power he could ever need, and with some basic cybernetics and robotics, lift up a car. He can tear the car in half. He can shoot lasers with his hands. He can fly. Because now you can finally have all the power wherever you need it. Arthur Livingston was involved with developing this. We find out later on in the story that he was involved with developing it specifically to keep it out of the hands of everybody else who wanted it.
That is a classic sci-fi move. I love it.
So he was funding the Raiden technology development and hoping to be the first person to get his hands on it and then lock it away forever. Because he's like, this is going to completely fuck up the world.
So do you think it's called Radon technology because it's based off of like Raytheon, like you wanted to sound alike?
I believe it was Raiden, the lightning god from Mortal Kombat, but also possibly.
I know nothing about Mortal Kombat, but okay. That's it's like the Three Stooges. That's a litmus test. Whatever you know, I'll take your word for it.
And there are 2 things that are well known on the streets that Zoe doesn't find out right away. One is that the Raiden technology wasn't perfected yet. So just every now and then, occasionally, the batteries explode and release all their energy at once.
Beta testing. Isn't that what that's called?
And the other thing is, Arthur does have the working Raiden technology, and he left everything to his daughter. So now Zoe is the one person standing between supervillain powers for the whole world and not.
Oh, she stands between the world being okay and or being taken over by henchmen.
Yes.
And it's all live streamed. Does her dog bark too? In an opportune moment.
So as soon as she arrives in Tabula Rasa and learns about all this, she also learns about where these guys are coming from and the other people who have access to Raiden technology, because the whole reason Arthur died is because basically he was killed and the imperfect technology was taken by a different group. And second rhetorical question, what is the worst possible group to have access to unlimited superpowers? Incels.
Oh, that's true in fiction too? Oh.
They're white supremacist chuds who suddenly have unlimited strength and can fly and laser cannons, who are trying to, and they specifically go after Zoe, and that probably doesn't help their viewpoint. And they are sick of men being subjugated. They're sick of women having all the power in the world. They're sick of women canceling men whenever they feel like it, just because maybe they got handsy at a party or whatever.
They need to be put in their place, sure.
There's a bunch of language I don't want to use from this book.
That's not have you on wax for in case you want employment in the future. That's keep you safe here. You're not an incel. Don't impersonate one.
It works really well for them because every time they do anything, it's broadcast on Blink. And they give these huge speeches about, like, men, aren't you tired of being subjugated? Aren't you tired of being second best? Aren't you tired of all these immigrants coming into our country and women telling you no?
Well, that algorithm would be boosted, Mr. Pargin. Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to join us and get superpowers? So recruitment is going very quickly in this book.
Now, are only men allowed to get the superpowers?
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought, no. But only men are allowed to get the superpowers. That's right. Okay. I was hoping I was wrong.
I don't think the incels are going to give women powers. At least they don't in the first book. I think they do in the second or third book once things settle down a little bit. But the reason that the mega incels have this is because the chief incel is the son of one of the other arms dealers who was dealing with Raiden technology with Arthur Livingston. So he got it from his dad.
Oh, fail sons.
The ultimate fail son. There's not much more I can tell about the first book without completely spoiling it, but it's basically Zoe and the suits having to figure out, they can't find where Arthur left the information for making Raiden technology work. He left him a puzzle and they can't figure it out. Everyone's trying to kill Zoe. Zoe's now the most important and most famous person in the world and is constantly trying to be killed by supervillains who are being filmed and are all about marketing and appearances.
I'm a little speechless because I can totally see that kind of future occurring. Laws are applied unequally, and if you're getting ratings, I'm sure that would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
If people like the show, they're not going to cancel it. So live streaming murders and assassinations, if you look cool and you're wearing a loincloth of doll heads, I'm not going to get in your way.
And everybody is watching Zoe all the time, just in case someone tries to kill her.
Does she know?
She's the #1 show on Blink. Oh yeah, she's very aware of this and not thrilled.
Now, mundane questions like how do you take a shower? Things like that. Or is that just...
That isn't being filmed, hopefully. But anytime you're out in public, anytime she steps foot out of her house, which has excellent security, like 1,000 people know it instantly. So it's very hard for her to go anywhere or do anything.
I heard the exact opposite story recently. Let me share it with you. It was a comedian, I think it might have been TJ Miller, but I could be wrong about that, who had to wear an ankle monitor, but his apartment had a bar on the roof. So he didn't have to leave that. He was never triggered for being outside of the house. And I was like, you know, technology has its limits. And that's hope for beta testing with the incel army here in Tabula Rasa. I love the name Tabula Rasa for a city. I love it. In Nevada. Let's do it again. Also with no water.
So that first book takes place at Christmas, and the ending is one of the more like dark and violent and visceral things ever, but it's also incredibly awesome. And I kind of get chills whenever I think about how awesome the ending is. So in my humble opinion, the first book in the series futuristic violence and fancy suits is like a 10 out of 10.
You read a lot,
It's
so that's
the best one in the series.
high praise.
It is an excellent book. The second book has the possibly better title, Zoey Punches the Future in the Dick.
It's eye-catching.
So it's about a year later. The first one takes place at Christmas. The second one takes place at Halloween. Zoey is trying to work out how to be the world's most famous heiress, and I can't put it better than the Wikipedia article, so I'm just going to poach this. Suddenly having access to unimaginable wealth, Zoey cannot help but enjoy it, in contrast to her previous life, while also understanding it was built on blood money and exploitation of the underprivileged.
That is what convenience is. Yes.
Jason Pargin is, at his heart, anti-capitalist, and a good way to explore that is a poor person suddenly being the richest person in the world, and perhaps having a slightly different moral lens with which to view things. She spends most of her time trying to do good with this wealth, while being stymied at every opportunity by Will, who explains that her good intent is often in direct opposition to human nature and how the city works. And she sees how hard Arthur was trying to walk the line between being a criminal billionaire and doing the most possible good with his money. She funds all the food kitchens to feed everybody, but she can't make them eat. So there's a lot of people in Tabula Rasa who are still hungry because they don't want to eat at a food kitchen. She can't make work jobs to everybody for the same reason, because some of them just
Can't function.
I don't want to paint walls. Yeah. She could incentivize, but short of tearing the system down, all she can do is give these really nice Band-Aids out. And she's not the only person in Tabula Rasa with money. So there's a dozen other crime bosses, and any three of them are more powerful than she is. She is still a big fish in a pond, but there's still other big fish in the pond.
So this is capitalism's endgame. This is pool all the wealth, and that is the law. Like today.
In book 2, Raiden Tech is still around, but a lot of people very publicly saw the superpowered incels fail at the first book, and Raiden Tech has fallen off a little bit, but there's still plenty of it going around now. There's back alley, black market Raiden Tech, so there's still the occasional super villain and superhero who shows up and occasionally explode because the tech still isn't perfect.
Does Zoey get the tech yet?
No, but she is happy being in charge of it.
Is the money and wealth turning her?
I don't want to ruin why she's in charge of it, but she definitely does not want it in herself. If she's already uncomfortable being rich, being Superman might make that even weirder, you know?
Oh, I know. I feel every time I have an avocado, I'm like, I am participating in a drug cartel, or...
So book 2 starts off with an online group of Zoey haters launching an assault on her mansion. And all through the book, there's more and more allusions to her and the suits being baby-eating cannibals and literal demons and just all this horrible stuff.
All I think about is what type of government do we have that engages in these forms of incredible evil? You baby harvesting demon maggots?
Baby eating is good for the skin.
It's like Alex Jones stuff. So,
adrenochrome.
Yes, absolutely. All the organizing for the Zoey haters are happening in an online game. And even Zoey, who's 23 years old, is too old to understand the game and the slang and the lingo. They don't even know what's going on.
Wonderful. I love that she's aged out at 23. I get behind that.
She's aged out. She can't keep up with what's going on. So book 2 is back and forth assaults from these mysterious groups. Zoey having to do diplomacy and business deals with the other crime bosses and trying to figure out what they want and trying to figure out who is trying to constantly kill her and eat her and her cat.
The cat's still alive. All right. I'm glad he didn't kill the cat, whose name is Stench Machine.
Stench Machine.
Stench Machine.
And the big social commentary for book 2 is something that Jason Pargin talks about a lot. And it's Zoey realizing near the end of the book that despite the constant unending onslaught of hatred and news about how bad the world is and how everything she does, every good thing she does in aggregate kills 1,000 other people that she didn't mean to.
Yes, like having a chicken sandwich that happens. You have a regular product and you're like, oh, this regular everyday product is doomed for 1,000 other things. We all commit that sin every day.
she funds one thing and it fucks something else up. And it's never direct. It's always indirect, accidental knock-on effects, and the guilt is killing her. But it's sort of at the end of the book, realizing that that doesn't reflect real people in the real world, most of whom like her and think she's doing a good job. So at one point, she has to flee from more assassins into a crowd of people who recognize her. And they're all happy. They're smiling. They're shaking her hand. They're saying she looks great. They're asking if she's single. After, 300 pages of thinking everybody in the world hates her and wants to kill her. And I can't ruin the ending for book 2. It's awesome. We get a lot more backstory with Will. We like Will a lot more by the end of book 2.
Will is better. Okay. And book 3.
And book 3 is Zoey is Too Drunk for This Dystopia, which also came out at perhaps the right time because it focuses on the mayoral election in Tabula Rasa, which is a far-right, religious, crooked, zealot nutcase versus Mega Boss Alonzo, who will pay you $10 to vote for him and promises not to do anything.
Make it stop. This is too close to reality.
And Zoey, being the billionaire philanthropist heiress party animal, has to support one of them. Like, she has to. If she supports none of them, then it's going to throw the election into chaos. And she has to support one.
I can see how that would support a drinking problem.
And she absolutely doesn't want to support the weird far-right guy because he's creepy. And she also doesn't want to support the centrist crime boss. Like, his name, like, he's on the ballot as Mega Boss Alonzo. He's like, I do crime. I like the city the way it is. Vote for me and nothing will change. Which might be how Jason perhaps sees one of the political parties in your country.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no commentary embedded in that whatsoever.
And the other main part of the book is this is happening at the same time as what is essentially Burning Man times 100. It is the giant party that happens in the desert every year, which Arthur Livingston, and now by extension, she is completely in charge of and funds. And it's like 10 million people come from around the world and party for days and days and days.
Here is where I would differ if I was a newly coined heiress. I'd be like, I'm not hosting that shit. No, shut that down. Put a fence around it. No.
She is absolutely excited to be part of it. She is happy to be. She likes partying.
Oh, well, she's 23, yes.
I was going to say, she's young. She has fun. There is a lot of drunken party sex that she has throughout these 3 books. Mostly the second and third book. In the first book, she's too stressed out to think about it.
Good for her. Hey, if you're 20-something and listening to this podcast, go do the sex and drugs. Go do that. You're not doing enough. If you're 30, slow down. But under 30, go nuts.
And all throughout book 3, these horrible crimes and assassination attempts, not on her, like every time she's around a politician, someone takes a shot at them. And all the blink footage, like, it seems somehow more coordinated. All the blink footage is cut showing her either being a coward or being evil or possibly trying to do the murdering. And she's like, no, that's not what happened. But the lie is already out there.
The deep fake is already out there.
Yeah, basically.
By perspective and angles, you're saying? So it's not doctored footage, but it's curated in such a way that it's...
Yes. The message, the narrative is out there. And the narrative will not be changed.
So you have so much information, you don't even know what you're seeing.
Yes.
Why am I angry? What? Suddenly, why am I angry?
There's a lot of focus in this book on the dangers of the ascendant rise of the far right and fascism. But my main complaint with this book is every now and then Jason Pargin will stop and go, oh, and by the way, the left is also stupid.
Well, he does a lot of that. And he does like, oh, the apocalypse isn't happening now. Calm down, everybody. But that's really...
I'm not even saying the apocalypse is happening now. It just...
He does try to be the voice of reason, but I don't think we live in a world of reason, so it's not jiving.
Yeah, he has an issue with ideology. This, like, big I ideology, like, ideology is taking over. And on the one hand, I can understand that. There are a lot of horrible far-right ideologies, but it does seem a bit like the meme of the person on the far right saying, you know, I want to kill everybody. I want to put you in camps. I want to have, you know, like a white supremacist state where women can't say no. And the person on the far left is saying, I just want everyone's needs to be met. And the centrist going, I literally cannot tell you two apart.
Yes, that does feel like Jason Pargin sometimes.
There's a tiny bit of I cannot tell you two apart in light and centrist in this one, which is why I think book 2 is a 9 out of 10 and book 3 is an 8 out of 10. Just because he gets a little bit too soapboxy on both sides in book 3. And Zoe's narrative in book 3 is, I think she has the least agency out of all 3 books. She is being whisked from location to location, from horrible incident to horrible incident, sort of like,
But that's,
I won't say against her will, but she just like appears at a location, something happens, she experiences it and freaks out, and then she appears somewhere else. Like,
so the more power she has, the more money she has, the least agency she has.
it seems to, yeah, because in the first book, she has a lot of agency, and she very specifically does the exact opposite of whatever the suits tell her. Of course, the suits very quickly figure that out and tell her not to do stuff, so she'll do it.
So
But
the suits are like AI and the machine is learning.
the suits are the people who keep the Arthur Livingston crime empire going.
Well, they got to walk both lines. They got to keep this train on the tracks or Tabula Rasa will drown, burst into flames, get overrun by hippies, whichever dystopian you choose.
I have to reread the whole trilogy again because I've read the first book 3 times, the second book twice, and the third book just came out, so I've only read that once. And I want to read all 3 in a row and just sort of, recalibrate myself. But suffice to say, absolutely 100% recommend this trilogy to anyone. If you like the first book, you will like the other 2.
That is a great ride to know. So I love picking up a book and knowing I can be with these characters for a while. It's terrible to finish a book when you're in love with the characters. So you pick up this book, you got 3 books to look forward to.
And there is a 4th book coming out. So there's going to be even more.
I wonder what will rattle Jason Pargin, because he does both sides sometimes. She's like, it's not the end of the world. But we do have a guy who's Secretary of Defense now who's like, I'll quit drinking next week.
Yeah.
When does he get afraid? When is there an emergency? I'm asking that of everyone, to be fair, not just him.
I think he is, on the one hand, possibly understandably looking at everything from the big picture. Like, imagine every time throughout history there's been like the fall of Rome. Imagine how every time civilization collapses. We're here. Civilization collapsed in an area, but humanity as a whole kept going and found new highs and lows.
It's not like we signed a treaty with the planet, though.
Yeah, because unfortunately that just reminds me of when I left my last company. We had what, the company called higher than average voluntary turnover, which is to say people were quitting in droves.
That's what it sounds like.
At our various staff meetings, people would mention, like, what are you doing to deal with the voluntary turnover? What are you doing to deal with burnout? What are you doing to deal with why people keep quitting? And the response from the company was always, we just want to reassure you that the company will be fine. And we're like, bitch, that's not what we asked. We didn't ask about the company. We asked, what are you going to do to keep us from losing our minds and quitting? And they're like, Anyway, I don't work there anymore.
I am glad when the plan is nothing or meh.
So Jason Pargin does seem to be like, the world will be fine.
The world will be fine. The humans on it might be gone.
There are specific individual things happening that are negatively affecting large groups of people in real, tangible, material ways.
Yes. So my perspective is the middle of the road guys are going to get run over because the wheel of time has turned too far. Now we're in end stage capitalism. I ask with vocal fry because I don't know.
I don't know. It feels like the last 5 stages have been end stage capitalism.
Oh, but hug your cat.
I'm hugging
She's
my
thinking
cat.
malicious thoughts. She will. She's going to free Luigi. Just give her some thumbs. Robot thumbs.
The last thing I had to say here was, for this pit stop, I was torn between 2 different trilogies, the Zoey Ashe Trilogy or the Jade Daniels Trilogy. And I figured this one was probably more relevant right now just because it's somewhat overtly political.
Somewhat. It's just...
For the next one, if it's more relaxing, I might do the Jade Daniels Trilogy, which is Stephen Graham Jones' homage to the entire genre of the slasher. And it is like a combination scariest and funniest and most violent books I've ever read, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
Well, I love a slasher. A slasher movie, when you take away the music, or like you get the behind the scenes thing where they're doing take after take, the topless actress has to scream again, and again. Like, it really puts the comedy in it.
Yeah.
And for a book, I can see that too. Oh, the cat's being very cute. Anti-capitalist cat.
You're squinting at me. Squint at the camera? Okay.
My next pit stop will be about two things. Briefly, the haunted doll that I have, and things that there's only so far that can go. I will show you a picture of the, I don't know if you'd prefer it live or videoed. The dogs are terrified. Do you want to see that live and record it? Okay. You'll have to I'll have to do an unveiling though, so you'll have to hear footsteps and all that.
Oh yeah, not now.
Okay. And then things that were luxurious, because we happen across these items all the time, like linoleum, celery, things that in the past were luxurious. Now we look on with horror, like ivory. And that will be my next pit stop.
Interesting. Alrighty. Yeah, I don't really have slides for this. All I could really put up for slides would be the covers of the 3 books, which are great, and fan art of Zoey.
Well, I already have an image of Zoey, so I don't want to see fan art of Zoey. I've already pictured her.
That actually is one neat thing, which I really like about the first book. So Zoey is almost never described directly. She's only described by her hair, like what her hair is doing at that moment, and how she has a blue streak in her hair, and then she gets angry at the blue streak and dyes it purple and red later on. So the only description you get for what Zoey looks like is either how she describes herself in context, in scene, in dialogue, or how other people describe her. So she tends to describe herself as a fat trailer trash girl, and almost everybody else, other people describe her that way if they're trying to be mean to her, because obviously there's a lot of people who were doing that. But a lot of other people also describe her as gorgeous and that lady with the great tits.
Being chubby will do that. Okay.
Yeah. So she, there is a lot of, it's an odd kind of body positivity, because there's never a moment where she's stopping and looking at herself in the mirror and then you get the description. There's almost no narration where it stops to describe her.
There's no male gaze if he's describing it like that.
There is no there's no male gaze with Zoey. There is a lot with Echo Ling, but they do that specifically to make fun of the idea of male gaze.
That's amazing.
Which I also got a kick out of.
Because it's only men who write a woman looks in the mirror and she's like, oh, I'm hot. That's not how most people operate. You don't think about yourself in the third person. And if she's never looking in the mirror describing herself, because none of us do that, at least not positively.
She thinks about her hair and her goddamn clothes, and that's about it. And otherwise does not spare a thought for how she looks.
That's excellent. You can insert whatever details you want in your brain there. It's choose your own path for that part of the reading.
Yeah.
That's wonderful and positive.
Your mileage may vary. I thought it was really, really well done, because I've read, I have a Clive Cussler podcast. I've read a lot of bad books when it comes to describing female characters.
My daughter told her photography teacher that her mom's on a Clive Cussler podcast. And he's like, I love those books. And I was like, he said he loves those books? He does? And then his second question was, why are they doing a podcast? Which I think, in juxtaposition, are the two funniest questions.
Yeah, honestly. Why are we doing a podcast? I don't know.
We met on Reddit, and you're not a Nazi. That's why we're doing the podcast.
Hey, I'm low bar.
Because when I first saw you, I was like, oh my God, this is a Nazi.
Oh.
You're just henchman. You're a henchman. Roll with
I know.
it. It's pretty awesome. Because now I know that you're a nice guy. But, if you meet Topper in a dark alley, he's going to be afraid of you. But you will be afraid of him.
I will probably be afraid of you, yes.
If you meet me in a dark alley, I will stab you or fight you barefoot. Either one. You pick.
I'm afraid of her.
Be afraid of me. I'm just bored. I'm looking for a fight. I want to see someone bleed. And that's how America got to where it is today.
That's all I have for you today. Love these books. Highly recommend them.
10 out of 10 for a first book from you, and you are an avid reader. That is big praise. And I think our current president called you America's hat. All of Canada. And I deeply apologize.
America's hat, the 51st state, referred to Trudeau as our governor, talked about how it's very mean that we control the taps to your water. Which is worrying.
I'm just baffled as to the people not understanding how hydrants work.
Oh God, the LA fires.
Oh yeah, it's a tragedy, but I guess everybody thought the hydrant in front of their house made them safe forever. It doesn't work that way, folks.
Not if there's no water.
Yeah.
I urge everybody out there to look up the Dollop episode, The Resnicks, Water Monsters, to meet the billionaires who control California's water.
And it's always going to be a billionaire controlling California's water. All the way back to, was it Moses? Oh, God, what's the guy's name? From Chinatown. The Water Czar of LA was on my next podcast, Crimes I've Forgotten. And we'll remember later. But until then, have a good time with the cat.
I should get back to work.
And get your furniture. What color are the sofas?
A nice dark blue.
Oh, right. I am so jealous. I have to wait yet until like 6 years because I don't trust any of my son's friends. I'll
send you a picture when they're set up.
I have found like boys' underwear hidden just what are they doing?
You don't want to know.
Peanut butter sandwiches everywhere.
On behalf of all former boys, I'm sorry.
I get a call every day from the school now. Every day. Because his teacher will tell me if he's got a good day or a bad day. So my husband thought it would be hilarious to teach him the word Machiavelli. And he said, just go whisper it to your teacher.
Oh, yes, you mentioned this.
So you practice saying Machiavelli. And she's
learning is fun.
Machiavelli. That was what she said to me. Evil. They were like, do you want to switch? He can skip a grade. He can just go right to junior high. And I'm like, no, he can't. That's how you make bad
just
people.
Get him out of here.
Robert Evans said it. And every day they're like, bitch, put him in the other school. And that's why I can't have nice sofas. But I'll envy yours. Send me pics.
This is why I can't have nice things.
Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Zoey Ashe came to tacularize for the funeral of her dad. Some superpowered men's rights losers are gonna make her mad. Zoey and the suits are gonna fight back. It's brains versus brawn. So you'll true back, but for everything she has, she tells him, bring it on. Zoey Ashe is gonna kick your ass. Zoey Ashe is gonna do it with class. Stash machine is gonna piss in your shoes. Looks like Will Blackwood has gotten into the booze. Zoey wants to party and have a good time, but she has to run an empire of crime. Zoey wants to help everyone with her cash, but no matter where she goes, she always makes a splash. Jason Pargin, and I hope you read them, y'all. He wrote a whole bunch of other books, and I think I own them all. John dies at the end of Spud if you've done a lot of drugs. I'm sorry to worry about this, like Proxy just came out and has way less bugs. This is like Cussler. Your host has been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler.